Today, we're diving into a really profound text called Purification of the Heart. It's all based on a poem by the West African scholar Sheikh Muhammad Mawlūd. And his big idea was that our greatest problems, they aren't really out there. They're inside us. Let's jump right in.
Okay, so this right here, this is the core idea of the entire book. It's arguing that the state of our world, all its conflicts, all its peace, is literally a mirror reflecting the collective state of our hearts. In other words, the world we can see is born from the world we can't see, the one that's inside every single one of us.
Now, think about your physical heart for just a second. It's an absolute powerhouse, right? Pumping over 100 gallons of blood every single hour through 60,000 miles of blood vessels. It's incredible. But as amazing as that is, the book's whole point is that the spiritual heart is infinitely more important. It's the real engine of our entire being.
And, this isn't some new age concept. This wisdom is baked right into our language. We talk about people being warm-hearted or cold-hearted. We say something gets to the core of the issue. But here's the really cool part. The Latin word for core originally just meant heart. We've always known deep down that it's our true center.
So, if the heart is our core, what happens when it gets sick? This is where the book gets really practical. It lays out a framework for diagnosing these spiritual diseases, almost like a physician would diagnose a physical illness.
According to this text, pretty much every negative action you can imagine, from a small lie all the way up to systemic injustice, it all grows from a spiritual sickness. Things like greed, hate, exploitation, they aren't just abstract evils floating around. They're symptoms of diseases located right inside the human heart.
Let's take a specific example, like miserliness. The book defines it as a sickness that comes from loving the temporary material world too much, and it makes this really sharp observation. Nobody likes a miser. In fact, it points out that even other misers can't stand each other.
Or what about envy? This is seen as one of the most toxic diseases of the heart. And it's important to get the definition right. It's not just about wanting what someone else has. Its true, ugly essence is wishing for them to lose it. And that's a huge spiritual problem, because it's like you're objecting to how God has distributed his blessings.
And this comparison just lays it all out, doesn't it? A diseased heart is full of resentment, hoarding, and greed. But a purified, healthy heart, it's the complete opposite. It's characterized by contentment, generosity, gratitude, and a fundamental trust in God.
But, just like with any illness, you can't find a cure until you understand the cause. The text doesn't just give you a list of diseases, it does a deep dive into where they actually come from.
I mean, just look at this breakdown for envy alone. It's not just one thing. It could be rooted in hatred, in arrogance, or even in poor self-worth. The book unpacks how each of these 7 totally different causes can lead to the very same destructive disease. It just shows you how complex our inner worlds really are.
And while these diseases might sound ancient, their symptoms are all around us today. What the text calls wantonness, or a love of excess, well, today we see that as people drowning in consumer debt just to look wealthy. What it calls covetousness gets a rebrand as smart business in a cutthroat corporate world.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the sickness. We've looked at the root causes. So what's the cure? How do we actually start on this path to purification?
Well, the primary medicine, the foundational treatment for so many of these problems is a special kind of remembrance. And it's not just a fleeting thought. It's a deep, consistent reflection on the reality of our own death, on our ultimate accountability, and on the presence of God. It's this reflection that puts all our worldly desires back into their proper perspective.
And this isn't just abstract theory. The book offers really practical tools, like this prayer, which is known as the Master Supplication for Forgiveness. It's a powerful way to start your day by taking inventory. On one hand, you acknowledge all the blessings you've been given, and on the other, you acknowledge your own mistakes. It creates the state of humility that opens the door to asking for forgiveness.
To fight what the book calls heedlessness, that state of spiritual autopilot we all fall into, it prescribes 4 very specific actions. This isn't passive stuff. It's an active daily practice. Seeking forgiveness, spending time with good people who remind you of what matters, actually seeking out knowledge, and of course, that consistent remembrance of God. And this all leads us to the final and most crucial point. Why does any of this internal work matter? I mean, what's the ultimate impact of going on this journey of purification?
And here we are full circle, back to that core idea. Purifying your heart isn't some selfish, navel-gazing project. It's the absolute foundation for changing the world.
The book argues that trying to fix all our external problems without fixing the internal diseases that cause them, well, it's like trying to treat symptoms without ever curing the actual illness. Real, lasting change has to start from the inside out.
And what's amazing is that this is a universal idea. Just look at Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous model for social change. Before you take direct action, which is the final step, look what step 3 is: self-purification. His movement had to first ask themselves, are we clean? Are we ourselves wrongdoers? Before they could go out and demand justice from others. It was essential.
And so, that leaves us with this final, really powerful question. The whole premise of the book is that our world, every system, every institution, every act of cruelty, and every act of kindness is built from the raw material of human hearts. It forces us to ask ourselves, what am I contributing to that? What's the state of my own heart? And what kind of world is it helping to build?